It's a beautiful day here in Nevada County. People are always asking me how fast is the Super Chief, and I'm embarrassed to say that I don't really know. My name is Jared White. Join me as we explore Northern California and beyond, enjoying the somewhat more affordable side of general aviation.
Chief is rolling.
So part of the reason I don't really have a good idea for how fast the Chief goes is because the airspeed indicator is ancient. I don't think it's the original airspeed instrument that it came with, but it's probably still 40 or 50 years old, and I don't think it's ever been calibrated. It gives me kind of a rough idea of how fast I'm going, but it doesn't give me a definitive number. I also have a ground speed readout from my ForeFlight, that comes from GPS, and that works pretty good. It gives you a good idea of how fast you're going over the ground, but it can't compute for winds aloft. So you may be traveling 100 miles an hour over the ground, but if you have a 10 mile an hour tailwind, your airplane's only traveling at 90 miles an hour. And then when you go the other way, 10 mile an hour headwind will slow you down. So what we're going to do today is I've figured out a route, track if you will, from Nevada County, and the starting point is directly over the runway, kind of on the west end of CAL FIRE. And then I'm going to fly southwest and fly over a pond that's out there near Sherwood Forest, kind of off of Old Auburn Road if you're local. And it's exactly 5 miles from my point here over the airport. So the plan is to fly that course out and then back, and then I'll be able to look at my time and figure out exactly how fast the Chief is going. So I want to fly it twice. I'm going to fly it once at wide open throttle, as long as I don't over rev the engine, which I don't. I'm going to try and fly it at about 5,500 feet at wide open and see how fast our absolute top speed is. And then I also want to fly the course once at probably around 2,200 RPM or 2,300, which is where I normally cruise at. So for flight planning purposes, I use 74 knots or 73 knots, I think, which is about 84 miles an hour. And in ForeFlight, that usually predicts my arrival times pretty well. If I'm flying a 2-hour flight and it says it's going to take me 2 hours to get there, and it's normally about 2 hours later when I show up. But I think the plane does fly a little bit faster than that, 84 miles an hour. I think probably wide open I'm closer to 95 or maybe even 100. I don't really know. So we're going to go up and blast around, and then we'll see how fast she goes. All right, we're ripping along here in the Super Chief. We're wide open at 5,500. The RPM is at about 2,450, and we're indicating about 110 miles an hour, which is really high. Our ground speed is actually about 110 miles an hour, but that's because we have a little bit of a tailwind. We're almost to our checkpoint here, and then we're gonna turn around and try it the other way. All right, we got the Chief turned around and we're heading back towards home. So on this leg, we're still indicating about 110 on the airspeed indicator, but our ground speed is down under 90. It looks like we're at about 88, 89 miles an hour of ground speed. So we definitely have a little bit of a headwind on this leg. All right, we're gonna finish this up. I'm gonna make my slower speed runs, and then we'll get back on the ground and see what the numbers say. All right, we got the Speedy Super Chief back in the hangar. The Starduster's in annual right now. Let's go sit down in the back. Check out these sweet 747 seats that my brother hooked me up with. Let's take a seat and figure out our numbers. All right, folks, my calculations are complete. I'm not gonna, well, I'll show you my cardboard. It's complicated, but we have some real world numbers for the old Super Chief, and she clips along at a pretty good rate. So wide open throttle at 5,500 indicated altitude, which according to the temperature is probably around 6,500 density altitude. Wide open throttle, 2,450 RPM. The Chief was traveling at an average speed, where's my numbers here? An average speed of 100.5 miles an hour. So we just got over 100 miles an hour, about 86 knots. And then when I made my second laps, I throttled back and it ended up settling right at about 2150, which is kind of a nice smooth RPM for the Chief. At 2,150 RPM, our average speed was 87 miles per hour, which comes out to about 75 and a half knots. Which is interesting because I flight plan at 73 knots or 84 miles an hour, so it makes sense that my flight planning is in ForeFlight ends up being pretty accurate when I'm out there tootling around. Thanks for riding along in the Chief today. I got a lot of work to do on the Starduster here. Well, not a lot of work, but I'm just I got to do the brake pads and a couple other things I got to fix. But hopefully we'll have her signed off and flying again here in a couple more weeks. Hope you guys are enjoying the nice weather we've been having. And if you enjoy riding along in the Super Chief, subscribe up here and check out another ride in the Super Chief down here. So long, folks.